Hello! So today we are taking a look at the PT17 Stearman from Golden Age Simulations in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm not sure if it's a full release yet or if it's in early access. I had to go via a link via one of the Flight Simulator news websites to actually get access to it, so I bought it through PayPal indirectly. It was a very strange purchasing mechanism. Anyway, we're going to go and have a look at it. And from the outside, I'm really impressed. But I do get the feeling, looking at it, I'm not sure what it is about it, that this might be a conversion from FSX that's been massively upgraded. And you'll kind of find that out in a few minutes when I show you around it. But we'll have a look around it first with the drone camera in the simulator. So you can see the modelling is pretty good. The material modelling is good. You can see the polygons all over the place, but I really don't know how they defeat that myself, so I can't, I'm obviously not an expert at 3D modelling. I'm just showing you what I'm seeing here. So you can see, yeah, the detail's quite good, but you get odd textures here and there that are not as high resolution as the rest of it, which is like really odd. The 3D structures are quite simple as well. You can see the number of polygons being used for the wings and things are very low. That will mean performance is very good though. So just having a look around the aeroplane here. So if we come down into the forward cockpit, for example, it's all very clear. Yeah, it's very straightforward. It reminds me a little bit of some of the other aircraft makers where they don't have the photorealism, but everything is functional and easy to see. Except in this one, there's just odd bits where there's very low resolution textures. It's quite odd. Maybe it's because it's early access, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's officially early access though. This might be the finished article. You do get several liveries with it, it's worth saying. So if we just go and have a look around, in places it's very good look. So the textures here are really good and it's really nice and clean and tidy. But then you get odd things like this. It's just, yeah, it's a mixed bag. I think that's the best way of putting it. Okay, so as we go around the aeroplane, I'll remove the tie downs in a moment, because I'll show you how to start the aeroplane up. Okay, so it's worth pointing out we're at Wycombe Air Park today in the simulator, so I've set the weather to a nice day because it's absolutely awful weather. And it would make it quite difficult to give a fair look at the aeroplane flying if having to fight the weather the entire time. Okay, so let's go and move away from the drone camera. So I'm going to press the insert key and we're in the cockpit now. So I've got the Tobii Eye Tracker on, which is obviously going to help us enormously with flying a biplane. So I imagine it would be much more difficult if you've got the normal views in play, but obviously being able to look down the side of the body while taxiing and taking off and landing is a huge advantage. Anyway, let's go and get this thing started, shall we? So we go and turn the battery on and the generator can come on. We'll leave the nav lights for the moment. We need to go and unlock the controls. We need to turn the fuel on. We need to move the magnetos to both. So I'm loosely following the instructions. There's quite good written instructions come with it. Most of this is historic data and information about the aircraft and its history, and information about what each thing does in the aircraft. The actual procedures are quite roughly written. I'm not hugely impressed with the document, but that's because in my job I spend a lot of time writing, proper documentation, so it's probably not fair for me to compare that. Anyway, let's go and move the mixture to rich. So if we press Control and 5, there's a default view out here. We can actually I'm just going to go and get rid of the tooltips because they will annoy us. I was obviously been using the tooltips while I've been learning my way around the aeroplane. Apply, go back, resume. Okay, so we've got a primer here which we can push in and out. It's not obvious to see if it's moving when you click it. It only moves a tiny amount. You can see that. You can also, within the cockpit, there's another switch here, or a click spot I should say. That is it going to work? So there we go. So I may actually be clicking something further down. That's another thing. You can click things in the front cockpit through the wall of the back cockpit, which is a bit odd. So if we come back over to here, if we go and turn the propeller, there is instruction in the book for different weather regimes about how many turns the propeller will need. And for some reason the propeller is not turning now, so maybe that means it's ready. So we can put the crank in place to energize the engine. So did I close the primer after priming it? No, I didn't. So we can click the energizer lever, so obviously it's flinging a flywheel around inside, and then we can go and press this button here, and that energizes the flywheel, kicks the engine over, and it fires up. So you can see the sounds are quite basic. I'm just going to turn the volume down a bit so you can hear me over it. Okay, so I'm going to jump back inside. Now there's a cover on the pitot tubes over there. Have I still got the tie downs on? Let's have a look outside. No, tie downs have been removed, but the chocks are still in place. So there is an EFB, and you can control things like the chocks. If I can click on it, there we go. And you can also see there's a pilot and a passenger. There is a refueling option, so while you're cold and dark on the ground, you can attach a pipe to the fuel tank and crank fuel via a hand crank from an oil drum into the fuel tanks. So I'm just going to turn the volume down in my own ears so I'm not shouting so much. Okay. Excuse me. So I've turned the pilots on. The aircraft does come with 2 custom pilots. So you can see I've switched them on here. So you've got a female pilot and a male pilot. So obviously the female pilot's a little bit smaller than the male pilot. And if you look around, they're animated really nicely. So I'm not sure if I use the arrow keys here, if we can get a close look at her. So yeah, they're as good as any of the other pilots that come with the sim, let's put it that way. So if we come back into the cockpit, let's go and turn those nav lights on now. And we'll take it for a fly, shall we? So, off the parking brake. Open the engine gently. And off we go. So I'm just rolling out to runway 24 here at Wycombe Air Park. The aeroplane's not pulling to one side at this amount of throttle. I'm not sure if it's going to when we get to the runway. I've not actually flown it yet. All I've done is gone through the procedures. Just gently roll out towards the runway. Okay, let's try this then. So full throttle. It's pulling gently left, but not very much at all. In fact, I would say it's not pulling, that was just an illusion. So the tail's come up, it's not really moving around at all. If we gently rotate, we're in the air. Let's keep an eye on the airspeed. We're doing about 80 miles an hour, 75. Dropping, so the climb rate's not great. It does seem extremely stable, but then I've got a very still day, so okay. So we're not going to follow the normal pattern at Wycombe, we're just going to do some testing, turning the aeroplane around, do some basic stall tests in aerobatics, and then we'll bring it back in for an approach. So we're turning back towards the airfield. Okay, so what happens if we just cut the throttle back to idle? Will the engine run at idle? Apparently it will. The speed's falling off. I'm introducing back stick and it's dropped the left wing. But we can recover that immediately, very easily. So let's get a bit more height. We'll do a circle of the airfield. While we're doing so, while we're climbing, we'll have a look outside. So it certainly looks the part, doesn't it? I think it's a case of if you don't look too closely, it's actually quite good fun. But if you're expecting a photorealistic rendition of the aircraft, you might be a little bit disappointed. It's very easy to fly, which makes me wonder how accurate the flight model is. And certainly the engine as well. So if I just dump the throttle and open it, you can watch the manifold pressure there. It does take a while for the sound to pick up. So you can see the RPM there. So if I cut it back, full throttle, it doesn't seem to die as such, but that may be accurate. There's the airfield behind us. Let's do a turn. The airfield's over there below the wing. The control surfaces are all animated nicely with their movement. Let's go and have a look at the tail, see how that works. Okay, coming back around towards the airfield. First thing we'll try is side slipping it. So I'm going full left rudder. So we can side slip an enormous amount. We're probably travelling that direction. Yeah, look. Okay, so we're going this direction, yes? And we're about to side slip, so we're going that direction. So the rudder impact is enormous. But it's very stable in doing so. Okay, let's take it up and see if we can spin it. So steep climb, full throttle. In this gap in between the clouds. Hold the elevator on. So at full throttle it won't spin. Try it. So idle, left rudder and full elevator, and it's going the opposite way. Let's give it right elevator as well then. Will it tumble? No, it won't. It's just going to drift back down towards the ground. Okay, so we'll let go of that. Pull it back out. Interesting. So it's extremely stable. Whether that's accurate, I don't know. Okay, let's bring it in for a low approach, and we'll do a touch and go. Obviously, biplanes of this era don't have any flaps, but they have tons of lift because of obviously having two wings. So just bringing it in, just touch the ground there. The sounds are quite nice. So full throttle, back in the air. Come back round across the airfield and then we'll land it. Could go for the grass runway for a change, couldn't we? Obviously this aeroplane is designed for it. Let's fly over the top of the airfield. Again, this is not the correct pattern for Wycombe. The correct pattern takes you out over the hills over there and round towards the industrial estate and back in. Keeping on the airspeed as we come in. Okay, we're down. It's quite nice how you have the heat coming out of the exhaust that obscures the view on the right hand side of the aircraft. Okay, let's turn around. So ground handling is very, very straightforward. So yeah, so overall it's kind of a mixed bag. There's bits and pieces I'll point out once we're parked up about the cockpit that I'm a bit, I don't know, hesitant about. It's almost like it could be very, very good. And because of a little bit of lack of attention to detail, it's not, you know, it kind of misses the mark a tiny bit. Okay, let's see if we spin this back around to put it on number 18. I wonder what the turning circle's like. It's amazing, look, which you'd expect, to be honest. Okay, parking brake on. And we can starve the engine of fuel very quickly. Turn the magnetos off, turn the battery off, whoops, and the generator off, nav lights off, and lock the controls up, I guess. Okay, so that's the PT17 from, now let me get the name right before I go and mangle it, from Golden Age Simulations. So yeah, the only kind of problems I've got with it are things like these bits of texture around the place where this just hasn't been tidied up. There's another bit of it up there. Now, you normally wouldn't notice it, but it's right in your eye line all the time. It's just really odd that they've left that. And there's other bits and pieces, like you can see some 3D structure overlapping here, which again, there may be some of this in the real aeroplane, I don't know, but it just looks a bit untidy, and like, you know, these two cross members going through each other here. But if they were just to tidy these bits and pieces up, it would be really, really good. And obviously, yeah, as we said earlier, some of the textures leave a bit to be desired, but they're not horrific. It just takes away from the overall thing, really. It's like if you look down, the seat is very low resolution compared to the fixings around it, and there's obviously, like, you know, no patina on the metalwork. And again, I know we are absolutely picking at straws here, because all I'm really worried about is it takes away from what is otherwise a great fun aeroplane that's very stable, very easy to fly. Whether that's realistic is another matter, but otherwise it's not actually too expensive though. So if you are interested in going and flying the PT17 in Flight Simulator, and if you've not already got the DC Designs version of it, which again is very good, but it's a completely different version, then you might be interested in this one. This one does come with many liveries as well, which is worth pointing out. And actually another variant. It's got the civilian and the naval variant. Something else I noticed actually looking at it. Inside this cover here, there's a transponder and a comm radio, and look, the textures are not finished on the transponder, which is a bit of a shame. So this is why I wonder whether it's snuck out for sale and people actually shouldn't be buying it yet. I'm not entirely sure. So I found it on the MSFS add-ons website. They've had a news story about it, so that's why I went and bought it, to go and have a look at it. But I wonder if it's actually available properly yet, because it's not available to buy on their website. It's not on the Golden Age Simulations website yet. So I just wonder how it got out, or even if, you know, people should be buying it yet. But it's looking good, and with a bit more work on those textures, as I say, it would be really, really good. Anyway, there we go. I'm going to leave it there. That's the PT17 Stearman in Flight Simulator from Golden Age Simulations. I'll see you again soon.